Hello, 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 and welcome to the Broad Street Review Podcast, Season 10. This is episode 30. It is crazy. I'm super busy, and I don't know how 30 episodes came out, but here we are, and it's only March. We have so much more to cover, but welcome to the Broad Street Review Podcast. I'm your host, Arnell Radford, but today, our guests are Broad Street Review. So we're doing this is a spring edition. Every now and then we get a chance to talk to the people who keep BSR running. And today is one of those days. So I'm here with Editor-in-Chief, Elena Johns, and Associate Editor, Kyle B. Hiller. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Darnell. It's always fun to be with you.
What has been going on at Broad Street Review? Besides the podcast kicking, besides all these articles are popping out and we're everywhere. I just want you to know that everywhere I go, I point out how Broad Street Review is in the house, probably more than any other sort of media outlet. You know, fight me if you want. That's where we are. We're there. So what do you say to that? The fact that we're actually out here and doing it?
I was speaking recently with an artistic director in Philadelphia at a theater, and she was talking about work she does in the community, going out to different groups, talking about the theater scene in Philadelphia. And she said she keeps hearing from people saying, like, well, I want to wait until I see the review in the Inquirer before I get tickets to see something. And we were both saying, like, well, these days you're going to be waiting a long time because the Inquirer is not hardly running any theater reviews, but you know who is? Broad Street Review.
Yeah.
Our critics are all over the region, not just doing theater also, but all genres. So we love to get that message out there.
Yeah. And we've got this trend out in the wild where we let our followers and readers know where they can find us if they see us out. And that's been fun because it really is crazy that we are everywhere. And we need more. We need more coverage out there. But at the point, I'm totally fine that it's us.
Yeah, right. I would love to see a resurgence of arts coverage, and we at BSR are like we believe in the future of that, and not just in an abstract way, but in a concrete way, because we also spend a lot of time mentoring emerging cultural critics, including with classes that we teach about review writing, which is honestly a pretty rare resource for ordinary folks. We just really believe that the skills are out there, they're gettable, they're still important, and we're here to talk about.
Yeah. And we've also been 20 years going strong. We just had a celebration not too long ago. 20 years of Broad Street Review. And how exciting is that?
Yeah.
Talk about that event, because we didn't have a chat, after it or leading up to it, I don't think. So let's talk about 20th and what that meant to the organization and all the people who came out to support us.
Yeah, really, we didn't know what to expect when we put that event together at Indie Hall and Northern Liberties. We love the folks at Indie Hall. It's a great space.
Shout out.
And we had a great turnout for that event, including a couple members of City Council, which meant a lot to us. We received a citation from City Council for our 20 years of indie arts journalism here in Philadelphia. And I actually really loved some of what Kyle said in his remarks at the event about really looking at the everyday hard work and consistency of what we've achieved here for 20 years. I don't know, maybe he wants to say something about that.
Sure, Kyle.
Yeah, right. It's so funny because I feel like those remarks for me, again, speaking from the heart at the time, it really was. It's just really impressive to see that we are still here 20 years in, especially within just the last few years, just how much turmoil there has been with just all the outlets not struggling to survive, everything is shutting down, all this other stuff. It's really hard to sustain any sort of momentum, let alone kind of have a foundation going. So it was really great to see so many people turn out to, it felt like a full house, and people stayed around. They stayed to listen to us talk. and a microphone. And it was a school night, y'all. It wasn't like a Friday night. We're all about the party afterwards, you know? So that's really cool to see people show up for something like that. And to see so many different kinds of people from so many different walks of life, not just the artists celebrating the other artists, you know. I think we just had such a really diverse audience at that event. And I think it was really inspiring to see, because I think sometimes we get so caught up being, you know, at our desks and things like that, and being behind the emails more so than in the front lines a lot of times. And I think it's just kind of nice to see that there are faces to all the people who are, you know, clicking the links and opening the newsletter.
Yeah, I always, I don't know why, but I am still kind of surprised when someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, I listened to the last podcast." Not because I don't think there are listeners. It's just because I'm not really thinking about who's listening. I'm just thinking about trying to have a great conversation with our guests. And it's always just rewarding to find out that that conversation resonated with people in the community when they see us. So that is also very great. And it's always something I'm still sort of humble about.
And it's organic too, you know? It's not something that we're doing for the algorithm. It's because we care, you know, and that's still part of the fiber of Bush Review. You know, that's something that was probably, you know, in the fibers in 2005 when it was founded. And I think that has carried on through, you know, essentially tradition at this point. It's over 20 years. That's, you know, that's a long time in internet years. So, you know, Broad Street Review was out when I was still on like dial-up internet, you know? So it's just like, it really puts into perspective just how far we've come and how we are still able to, you know, exist and still resonate with people too, you know? There's still plenty of websites that are still up there from 20 years ago, but are anybody talking about them on the streets? No, just us.
Yeah. It's because of 2005, there was a moment where it felt like in 2006, every organization got a new website. It felt like everyone's website changed, or their domain name was simplified because they had something that was like, this is all I can grab, you know? And they changed. And when they changed, it was a new website. And so in 2006, you couldn't get the production history past, you know, the current build of the website in that moment. I just remember that being a thing because you're going to these sites for the resource and you weren't able to see like, wait a minute, you've been around for like many, many, many years, but that information's not there. It's just interesting how at the time, even though they were making that change, we still weren't really valuing the web presence as something as important as it is today. And to see even now, we're spending a lot more time on social media platforms to get to sort of the information we want. And even there's a conversation about it. It's not really social now. It's more like interest media where they're looking for very specific things that they want. And so again, that sort of speaks to the power of Broad Street Review and how the content here keeps bringing people back to the website and not particularly just living in our social feed to say, oh, they said something about this and move on.
Yeah. Well, to really spend time with our critics over time, not just like, I'm going to take, 4 or 5 minutes and read this person's perspective, but I'm going to sort of have a relationship with them as a reader, that I know them and I trust their taste and experience. So one thing that a lot of folks often don't realize when they think about arts journalism, or particularly the work of critics, is that we're not just out here telling you, whether you should go to a show, right? Like whether it's quote unquote good and bad. Those critics are creating an independent record over time of that work. So what we have at BSR, now that we've been publishing for 20 without a paywall, that means anyone can go read any BSR story anytime, anywhere in the world. You can go back and you can look at 20 years of our independent record of what's been happening on Philly arts scene, which is pretty amazing when you think about all the things our city has been through since 2005 and how our artists have been documenting it. And through BSR, anyone, not just in Philly, but anywhere in the world, you can go in and, get a view of that. And that's a pretty incredible thing.
It is. The same thing here with the podcast. I was not really thinking about archiving when I first got started. And so my previous podcast, Rep Radio, we have a lost season 1, because it died on a failed hard drive. But it was like one of those things. I had everything was up on a website that was existing and running strong, but then it disappeared just out of nowhere. The website was like, we're closing down. Like, wait a minute. And and so it does make you think. And it's also the reason why our websites are more important, because any part of the social space that we're in could change at any time. They could change their policies. They could change how people see you.
Yeah.
And you could have a bunch of followers, but you don't own them. Like, you don't own that information per se. They're just in that space. And if you lose that, then you lose them.
Or even if you do have the following, that platform can just kind of randomly suppress you, especially if they don't like, what you're doing or what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. But so thinking about, like, we're here in the spring, I know it's kind of hard to think about it because there's so many different articles and stories, but are there any particular ones that stand out for you for this season?
We have a lot on deck, as always. I'm pretty excited about a piece I'm actually right in the middle of working on, in between doing this interview, by one of our writers, Andy Hockman. She went to the Ministry of Awe, which if you haven't been, it's wild. It's a lot, and it's wild. And she has written a beautiful review that really, it's awesome, and it also barely scratches the surface of everything that you can experience there. So I super recommend looking out for that piece by her and checking that out. But we have lots coming up. We're previewing Philly Theater Week, a mini ball with Cannonball Festival. So if you want your spring theater fix, be sure to look out for a roundup by our core theater critic Cameron Kelsall on that. He's going to tell you what's what. I don't know. Kyle may have some stuff on deck too.
Yeah. I've got a few things coming up that I'm pretty interested in. There's this foundation called People's Music Supply that's doing this really cool thing, just working with kids and youths and just making music and just the whole process and stuff like that. So I'm really interested, to give them a shout out and give them some coverage and things like that. I'm actually working on a piece posting tomorrow about Alison Zeitman's show Ready to Die, which is this comedy about it's a dark comedy about death and dying and preparing for all that and all this other stuff. And it's at Laurel Hill Cemetery.
Performing it in a graveyard, right?
Yeah, she's performing it in a graveyard. She had to postpone the show because there was a literal death in the family, which it's just really interesting to see. Just shows that kind of deal with some really dark topics and just learns how to laugh at it. I think we could all use some levity these days, that's for sure. So I'm pretty excited about that. And yeah, I don't know. I think just kind of seeing what's happening with Philly Theater Week and just what spring and summer is going to look like overall. I think there's something in the air that feels a little bit more active in 2026 versus maybe the years past. I think everyone was still just very much in, a pandemic haze and things like that. And, say what you will, but it's kind of good to see that people are starting to just have some spirit about the arts a little bit more than I feel like has happened in the past few years. Maybe that's just me picking that up, but
I think it's partly there's just a bazillion things going on related to the 250th anniversary, big thing right now, which another thing at BSR you can look out for is we are having sort of a monthly preview column about 250th events, like all of these shows and exhibitions and events and things. So BSR is now a destination for you to, learn about what's happening on that front. And I think also too, I think there's going to be a lot of protests in Philly this spring. There was a huge protest the last weekend of March. A lot of folks in the BSR community were there, and we have a piece about that, including the fact that a fake image of the Philly March went viral immediately after the march. And I did some writing about that, about, why we can spot it's a fake, why it matters that it's a fake, and how we can sort of equip ourselves to not fall for that in the future, which is going to be really important as these protests continue. And I'm sure that BSR is going to be out with more to say about that too.
It's crazy that even happens, but it also speaks to how powerful the message is at these demonstrations, that they're going out of their way to try to skew it and make it seem like what is being said is a fallacy.
Yeah, the fake image showed, it looked like an aerial view of an enormous crowd. And it's hard because the crowd was enormous. I was in it. I've estimated about 40,000 people. That's a hell of a lot of people marching up the Parkway. And so there was, instead of a real image of the people, there's this fake image going viral, and people are like, oh, wow, look at Philly. But that image isn't real. And like I said in my editorial, when we aren't critical about this and when we're sharing things that aren't even real, that's giving fodder to the people who are against our democracy. It's making it easier for them to say that this movement isn't real. We all need to have some critical thinking and make sure that what we're engaging with, what we're sharing is genuine. It's just an ongoing project that we all need to engage with. And that's going to be really important at BSR. I want to make more space to think about that and talk about that.
And whether the falsehood was favorable to us, like if that crowd made it look much bigger, then it's still not accurate.
It's not accurate. Yeah.
And if we were to glom onto that and be like, yeah, see, then somebody else finds out that it's not authentic. And then the whole thing looks bad and everything looks fake.
Right. Yeah. And it could go the other way too. Like what if an image went viral that was showing a very small crowd, that wasn't real. Like, we need to stick with what's real and use those critical skills.
In the event of no kings, even if it was a small turnout, there are demonstrations.
It was huge.
Well, I mean, there are many demonstrations, including international. So
exactly, yeah.
It's like, even if 5 people showed up in a suburban town and called it a no kings, there's still international demonstrations as well to speak to. This isn't just an isolated conversation that we're having.
There was people, scientists in Antarctica wrote no kings in the snow. Like it was all 7 continents.
Yeah. And so with the 250th, it does feel like everything is kind of like everybody's planning for all of this to be super crazy, like in a truncated amount of time. And, and so it'll be interesting to see how the city is, like the atmosphere of the city.
And not to mention the huge sports events that are coming in the summer.
Yeah.
And we have an election, the primaries in May and then the election in November. It's just, it's going to be wild.
And so to all of our listeners, if you're excited about everything that's coming to our city, don't get burned out. Don't get burned out in the fall. We support Fringe. And then after that, we get ready to vote.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been, my focus is primarily theater. And so I had just been thinking about how the energy starting with the Fringe Festival was just dynamic and exciting. There was so much to see and everybody was seeming to be talking about everything. And so it was just like, it's going to be crazy. I'm going to miss a lot of these things.
Yeah.
But it was a sign
more than
that
300
people were
shows.
out and ready. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, usually I'll pick a list. I go through every festival and identify things that are pulling my interest. And it's usually like, 13 to 15. And I may or may not get to all of those. But yeah, so I never expect to see everything, of course. I'm only one human being.
Yeah, you couldn't.
But trying to get a good variety of all of that is what makes a festival fun. And so I do like doing that, but I do feel like that energy, comes out of summer. We had this beautiful weather and hopefully we got to escape and relax and unwind a little bit. And then we get back into the swing of everything. And hopefully that momentum that starts in the fall kind of carries us throughout. And I think that's the reason why I think things like Philly Theater Week are a really great idea to have in the spring, to say we're not done yet. There's so much more to see too, and so we're going to cover this and talk about this, and then the season's going to finish strong.
Yeah.
Are there things that you're looking forward to? As we're at this moment, are there conversations that are being had for like laying foundations for future things?
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to flag kind of on that point in like a really big picture way is that we at BSR, because of a lot of funding challenges that are not unique to us, it's, a lot of nonprofits are having trouble. We had a gap in our funding for this spring that really threatened our coverage. We were going to have to scale back our coverage if we couldn't fill that gap. So we we're like, well, we're going to get real with our community and our readers and say, we needed to raise $10,000 to cover our coverage this spring. And we were very proud to do that. In the course of about 3 weeks in March, we passed that $10,000 goal. We're recording today on March 31st. That's the last day of our Readers Decide campaign. We cracked $11,000 just today. And of course, you don't have to give to just a specific campaign at BSR. You could make a donation to us anytime. It always is going to support our work year round. But I just want to flag that we are in a moment where our readers came through quickly in a really big way that ensured our coverage for now, when it was at risk. So when we're talking about building our future and what's coming up, I want to say a big thank you to our readers who stepped up and made sure that future was possible, and it was most of the gifts that we got on this campaign, the vast majority of them were small gifts, under $100. And the average size of those gifts was about $40, which means that a lot of the donors were giving $10, $20. So there's real grassroots energy about this, where we have readers who obviously don't have a lot to give, but they really saw the value in what they're doing and they want to support it in a material way. And when enough people come together and do that, that can literally keep us going. So big thanks to our readers and our listeners who stepped in and said, yeah, we do want you to have a future. It was a big boost for our team. So yeah, we're heading into the spring and summer with tons of coverage coming up of all of these 250th events. This week, we have a new piece live about an exhibition at the National Constitution Center called America's Founding. It's this immersive exhibit that takes you and makes you realize what it was like to be a citizen in Philadelphia from about the 1760s through the 1780s, and what that was really like as the colonists were deciding, are we going to become a new nation? And we have lots more on deck, in museums and art exhibitions and stuff. So we're going to be there. And yeah, and Kyle, also, if there's something on your radar that you want to jump in with for the spring or summer,
yeah,
let us know.
I think kind of to play off what you were talking about with just fundraising. Not that I'm looking for anything in particular. I think I'm interested to see what the conversations actually are once we get through all these events, the 250th, and just how does Philly feel after all that? Because I think it's really going to show us so much about this city right now. And I think with just our fundraising campaign, it really showed us, not that we really questioned that, but I think it was one of those things where it's just hey, people are coming out in droves to support us. And that is not a small feat at all for any kind of organization, no matter how small or big you are, to be able to have so many people that want to give and support. And I think there's accountability that comes with that for us. How are we thinking about our coverage in the future? How are we thinking about how we're actually serving a community? Because when you are able to fundraise like that, that means you have community, right? And you have a responsibility towards that. And I think that's really important for us to really make sure that we're continuing to capture what's actually happening in Philadelphia, because people want to know. And that's why they gave that money. So what's happening with Philly in 2026 on the 250th anniversary, when all these things are happening, everything is unraveling, everything is falling apart. We still have this infrastructure that has the strength to keep on. We have to hold the torch for a lot of people who are looking at 250 being okay, well, how do we begin 251? How do we as an organization, as a people, as individuals, how are we thinking about our future? And I think that's a big thing that I'm thinking about with Broad Street Review this year, especially with just how we kicked it off with our anniversary party and all that other stuff. I think it's just been in the thread so much. It just feels like it's like a motif at this point.
Yeah. And I know many of our organizations are, just trying to kind of get by now. And that's not really like us. We're all ambitious. We have goals that, appear to be unreachable, but we face them every day, and we go in and try to get as close to those goals as we can. And I know it's been tough to really think about growth, but thinking about 251, what kind of growth do you see in the future of Broad Street Review, or what do you want to see that is growth in the future of Broad Street Review?
One thing I think about a lot and that I really want to get rolling, hopefully later this year, is hope that we can fundraise to expand our team here at BSR. I want to add some more fundraising and development expertise to our team, which honestly, we don't have right now. Like, all of our fundraisers are cooked up by these folks, like me and Kyle, who are journalists, or our administrative folks. We would really love to build our capacity for development here at BSR, which we need, to implement all of these ideas that we have for programming. We need more support, and I would like to add that to our team. So I would say, this is just to plant the seed for down the road to look for some campaigning and some building around that specific goal, that we're going to want to expand our team in a way that helps to bring in more support so we can do what we want to do.
And much needed too. It's funny, like sometimes I think about it and I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we had, sort of a representative or two that focus on all of our neighborhoods?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And
Yeah.
just kind of have someone that's like a point person in those spaces,
Like
to
a
see what's
neighborhood
going on.
liaison.
Yeah, and it's like tough to do. You need infrastructure to have,
Mhm.
That kind of coverage. But the thing is, like, if you're a listener who feels like you're not really sure what's going on in the community, like, an operation like Broad Street Review is what you want to support. You want to make sure that we're already having conversations with the community. We're out there and shining a light on things that that may not have been readily accessible to you, but they are now, because all you had to do was you're subscribed to our newsletter. You go to our website pretty frequently, and so then those things are there for you. But there would be so much more there if there was more support towards the effort, and
Mhm.
also realizing that there's an assault on, like, the truth
And journalists
right now.
and
Yeah.
a free press. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, those are the things we have to think about. Like, oh, by the way, like, maybe I'm somebody who doesn't read a newspaper anymore, but understands the value of still a paper being printed,
Mhm.
you know?
Published. Yeah.
Yeah. And all of those stories and conversations being made available to you. Like, you shouldn't have to go through hoops to get, what's actually going on in the
No, you shouldn't have to pay like a $40 a month subscription, to
Mhm.
read about what's happening in your city, not to name
Yeah.
names.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also, if you're gonna pay for something that doesn't have everything, like, what is
Yeah.
the point? What are we paying for?
Yeah. And I get folks in my inbox sometime that are unhappy with me or unhappy with BSR because they wanted to see coverage of something that we couldn't get to. Like, obviously, we're a part-time team of like 7 people. We can never cover everything.
Yeah.
But I get people who are salty about it. Well, you should have covered this or that. And it's like, I don't disagree. I would love it if we had more resources. So instead of coming into our inbox and being mad about it, you could support us, and help, mobilize the community to support us, because the more support we have, the more we can get to.
Or point us in the direction of some support,
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Sometimes it's much easier to sit back and, like they say, armchair quarterback.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
wanna talk about what is wrong, but, like, everybody, let's just all understand that everyone is great at pointing out what's wrong.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah.
But not everyone has the ability to think about how to fix what's wrong. It's like, allow your realization to go a little bit further. I see a problem, but do you see a solution?
Mhm.
And if you see a solution, then that's the feedback that we want.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to like the article. You don't have to like the interview. That's
Mhm.
totally fine.
Sure, yeah.
Hopefully, our next article, our next
Yeah.
interview is something that resonates more with you. But if it's broken and you see a way to fix it, that's what we want to hear. But if it's not broken and you just don't like it, then perhaps that's something you don't share, but you did read it, and you'll be surprised. You're going to go somewhere and talk about this article, this interview that you did not agree with, and realize that it did hold some value for you.
Or at least it sparked a conversation for you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And you had to really grapple with, okay, well, why didn't I disagree?
Yeah.
So it's This is why it's like what I teach about in the class I have about like quote unquote bad reviews, why we need them, what's the value in them, like what kind of conversations are they sparking. Yeah, it's all super super valuable.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Darnell, so for the interest of time for all of us, one thing, if you don't mind, like me being in the seat for a minute, you have some really exciting interviews coming up on the BSR podcast. Do you want to take a minute to plug some of the conversations that folks are going to hear in the coming weeks from us?
I do, yeah. So I'm going to be interviewing Mandy Gonzalez, who you may know from Hamilton fame, who's doing a show at as part of Ensemble Arts Philly in April, and so that conversation's coming up. It's going to be really exciting, and also, Pulitzer Prize winner James Symes will be back in the studio as we are reaching the third installment of the James Symes Pass, with the world premiere of Wilderness Generation at Philadelphia Theater Company. So we're going to have a great chat to talk about all three shows. And, how are you churning these out? And you've got irons in the fire and you're still a professor.
Exactly.
And, doing all of that. So it's going to be really exciting to have that chat because there are people who have like three things they can do and they're overwhelmed, and it's helpful to hear someone who's doing a lot of things and figuring out how they're making space for all of that. So that's going to be great. And then in general, we're definitely going to be covering Philly Theater Week productions. There's almost 50 of them. I think it's about 47.
Nuts. Darnell. 50.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And what's also exciting about that is that they were not all like scheduled. I mean, they were not all part of a season. All of those productions, there are productions that are being spun up for Philly Theater Week, or they use this opportunity to workshop a piece or to give it first eyes. And generally, the whole concept is to try theater, even with the pay what you can model. So all of that's going to be great. Shining a light on some of that work so you can see and hear a little bit more about the work before you get out there is going to be great. And, just to be part of the conversation because you never know where you're going to go, and what you experience through the Broad Street Review pipeline is going to be something that's going to inform a conversation that you're going to have. You're going to be the one who gets to bring that into the space, and then everybody's going to be better for it because you read the article, you listened to the interview, and now you're sort of sharing that gospel with whoever you're talking to. So that's always great. If you are a curator of knowledge, if you're a consumer of things that you can't quite think about where they go at the moment, because that's what I do. I tend to consume a bunch of things and then a conversation brings all of this to light, which is great. Like, this is the place to be. Get in here.
Yeah.
And listen to these conversations and share them out.
The thing that we do so strongly at BSR is that, yes, you read us, we're a publication, but we are cultivating community. That you really feel like, I think I really liked, what we were saying earlier to that point about our accountability. Now we've raised this money. We are accountable to the readers who are funding us. They're part of that community. They feel welcomed. They are interested and curious. They feel like they can come up and say hi to us, join our events, get in the comment section, and not just be a passive consumer of the arts or a passive consumer of the media or whatever you're reading, but to think, how can I be an active community member? Not only funding it, if you're able to do that, it's bigger than that. It's how you promote us in the community, how you engage with us. You, as readers, as listeners, you have the power to create the media landscape that you want to live in. And so to that end, we're like, come in and be in the BSR community.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything else we want to chime in about? Oh, we should tell people how they can support us.
So if you're listening to this and you've never been to the Broad Street Review website, broadstreetreview.com.
I'm so glad you found us.
We're there. Check out our website. We have pages for, if you want to figure out how you can invite BSR writers to your event, if you want to contact BSR writers, if you want to try writing for Broad Street Review, you can find all of that info on our website. You can also find us on Instagram. We have a great community over there at Broad Street Review. That's Broad ST Review on Instagram. And obviously, if you're listening to us now, you know that you can put BSR in your ears or find us on YouTube. So, and like, I swear, I never go to a show without seeing Darnell in the audience somewhere. Like we're here, we're out there. So when you see us like out in the wild in person, please say hello.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, I am overextended. Like it doesn't make sense for me to be everywhere that I am. And I managed to get out there. In general, I just said it's either primetime television or something live, and so I would rather engage in something live than to just park in on demand space because I can reserve that for when I have downtime. And that's what's really great about Philadelphia in general. There's always something. There's always something you can get into. You can either plan it in advance or it could be last minute. Sometimes I get a text message. It's like, hey, I got an extra ticket to a movie. You want to go?
Yeah.
Or it's like, absolutely. Yes. Can I meet you in, I don't know, give me like 45 minutes, something. Because you just immediately, you're thinking like, this wasn't a plan and it won't happen again. So if I can move something, yeah. Go be a part of that because you never know what'll happen on your way to somewhere. Just a bunch of things could happen that could totally change how you saw the whole day.
Yeah. Yeah. Kyle, is there anything you want to say to wrap us up?
Just keep supporting the arts, y'all.
Yeah.
Support your friends. I know we all love Beyonce and all the big names. Everybody out there, cool. But like, look out for your own. And I think that's something I'm really embracing this year with Roast Review, but just in my own personal life. I think, we talk so much about how, there's nothing new out there, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, well, your friend down the street probably has something going on. You should probably go check it out. Or at least talk to them about it. If you can't make it at 7 o'clock on Thursday, that's totally fine. It's understandable. But still, the conversation goes a long way too. And I think we're starting to kind of forget about that because I think, we have been sort of pulled away from conversation in its physical form, it just being on our phones and all that other stuff. But I think sometimes it's really good to just kind of get out there and have that conversation. That is Roast Review. We're the home for, arts, culture, conversation. It's in the subhead, y'all. So
it's in the title. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we live in a time where I think we're starting to forget what community really is and what it looks like, and we have to recultivate it. And that's great. It's an opportunity to really revise and refresh. And as writers, we're good at that. So come hang with us and say hi and do the thing for yourself too. And probably set you up.
Yeah, absolutely. And see what we have to offer on our website, broadstreetreview.com. You can find us on social channels at just search.
You can find, Instagram is probably the best spot to find us on socials. If we could get some more support, then probably we can expand our social presence. But you know how that is. You can find us on YouTube, on Instagram, online.
Yeah. And when you visit our website, and you will hear this in the outro, you visit our website, click that donate link and help keep us running.
Keep us running. It's up to you. It's in your hands. Local media is in your hands.
And you've helped us this far. And so we really appreciate that. And we want to continue engaging with you. So Elena Johns, Kyle B. Hiller, thank you so much for popping into the studio. I know you were super busy and you had a bunch of stuff to do. And you took the time to come over here in the virtual studio and hang with us. So we really appreciate it. And all you listeners, the drill. It's not just the podcast. It is a very robust website of conversations that are valuable and meaningful to our community. So be a part of that, share those links, subscribe to our newsletter, donate, tell your friends to do the exact same thing, and we'll keep doing the great work on your behalf. So thank you so much.
Thanks
for being here chatting with us. It was truly a pleasure.
Always. Always is.